And that was just a couple guys that I wanted to touch on that I feel like really kind of boosted their stock, or at least, kind of like solidified, like, okay, maybe he is one of the top guys in this, at his respected positions.
Yeah, I honestly, I think it's great that you mentioned the two positions because, like, you have one positioning group as far as like the D line and the D end is concerned, like where like there's gonna be a lot of guys that are within this like hypothetical range, right? And then how do you like grade them based on it?
To another edition of the Raider Take podcast. I am Micah McDonald. With me, as always, is Andy McDonald. We had ourselves a busy little week, if you ask me. We got big-time quarterback news. As everyone's aware, Derek Carr as well. We got the combine, a lot of things rocking. It's actually a very, very big quarterback-heavy news week, really, all around when it comes to NFL, combine, that kind of stuff. I don't want to call it a formality. Somewhat of a formality at this point, but how are you, sir? How are you doing before we dive into all of this?
Well, happy birthday to you, by the way.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
No,
Just every week. Every week is my
every
birthday.
week. Yeah, Kev probably texted you. He's like, "Happy birthday, man." No, I'm good, man. It's definitely it's ramping up again. We didn't really have a lull period just because of all the drama, between the Super Bowl and the Combine and the Raiders and Derek Carr, whatever, right? Like, there's been a lot of things that we've been talking about, which has been cool. But I'm good. We, had the Combine this past weekend. Free agency starts on the 15th, I believe. Legal tampering period is on the 15th, which means some deals are going to be executed around the 13th and 14th. So about a week out from that, but I'm good.
I think that's just like right where Harris Market was at. I think that breaks down to, if I'm not, that's like 37.5 a year, 37.5 per year.
Yep.
This was where we were at when we were talking about how he wasn't going to get what his Raider contract was, but his Raider contract didn't have any more guaranteed money. So, obviously there would have had to have been some type of negotiations on a restructuring of a contract. But it's just funny because he goes in, he has this interview, this meeting with the Saints, and it comes out that he's not going to accept any trade because the Saints want him to take less money. And then he goes out here and signs a team-friendly deal in regards to the Saints cap situation and signs for less money. So, that's, big time spite vibes, which is perfectly fine. He does not owe the Raiders anything, even though they made him rich off of 9 years of mediocre football play. That set aside, I think that it's pretty on par for what a lot of people thought he was going to warrant, something close to where he was, but it just didn't feel like anybody was going to give him what he had with that Raiders contract, or even more than that. So all in all, I think it was, the best fit, as we've talked about before, best fit for him was with the Saints. I see a lot of things floating around about how Derek Carr and the Saints offense is now the most dangerous offense in the NFL, or one of the best offenses in the NFL, which was kind of odd. But there was this thing out there from, I'm going to go find it real quick. Josh Dubow, of all people, naturally, right? Naturally, he's going to throw something out there. He said, out of passing, pass blocking, receiving, running, and run blocking, the only category where the Saints graded higher than the Raiders per PFF was in passing. So the only spot that they were better than us, they just took our guy, right?
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah. So all of this to say, I think that many people expected this to happen. It was probably his best overall option that they had going on. There was a lot of things that kind of circulated that more teams were getting in the mix or more teams were interested, but it just kind of always felt like the Saints were where it was going to be with the whole Dennis Allen situation. But, good for him. He went out, he downgraded a little, but not much when it came to the money, and he got his bag. So we'll see how this transpires from here on how well he does and all that kind of stuff. But, all the more power to him. Wish him the best, and we'll see. We'll see how this debate pans out in regards to was it us or was it Carr?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that'll ever stop as far as like was it us, was it Carr? Like he over the combine this past weekend, he did visit with the Colts, the Panthers, and I believe the Jets. He had already visited the Jets as well, but he had some suitors there, and I think he did end up taking the best deal for him just because it's the NFC South that features Kyle Trask as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback, Sam Darnold for the Panthers, and then the other team in that division would be Falcons. The Falcons.
There we go. Yeah, Ritter, bro.
Yeah. So it's like he goes to the probably the worst division right now with quarterbacks, and so and what you said about as far as like Derek Carr goes to the Saints, and it's like is it the best offense? They do that for everyone that's like ever acquired. So it's like, oh, now they got this new receiver. And what's funny about that is they didn't even include Michael Thomas on like the list. It was like Chris Olave and then Dante Stallworth probably, because he played 20 years ago. It's like there was no inclusion of Michael Thomas because he's going to be cut probably. So anyways, I just think that it makes sense. We talked about it a couple weeks back as far as like the best like team that he should go to. He gets out of the AFC West, he goes to the NFC South, and it's a division that Tom Brady has retired to our understanding. And it's a division that he can definitely go in and make the team better. They have a great defense. Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, a lot of great weapons there. So it makes sense for DC. I think you take a team-friendly deal, but like the way that he did it and the way that they did it, like he did it to where he still also got a no trade clause. So he's going to be able to control his own destiny with the Saints as he did with the Raiders, but very front loaded as far as money is concerned, guaranteed money. So after 2 years, they might be able to kick the tires and say, hey, is this what we want to do? And then he'll be able to do the same thing and be like, I want to go to the Jets or the Texans just to relive my brother's career. Who knows, right? But yeah, DC's on the move to New Orleans. And so I wish him the best. I'm glad this is over. Like I knew he was never going to come back to the Raiders, but good luck for you, my man. Some other quarterback news. Daniel Jones actually was signed today, right before the franchise tag deadline was. And what's interesting is they had both him and Saquon Barkley that were kind of approaching that. It's like, who are they going to give the tag to? Daniel Jones, he's fine. He threw for 15 touchdowns last year. But he got 4 years, $160 million, also very similar to Carr's contract, where he got a lot of front-loaded money there, and then they ended up franchise tagging Saquon Barkley. So that happened. Lamar Jackson got the non-exclusive franchise tag, which Micah educated us on this 2 weeks ago. So where he is able to go out to the open market, negotiate with other teams if he does get an offer he likes. The Ravens are able to match. And if they do not match, then that team will then have to give up 2 first-round picks, a lot of stuff. So within like 3 hours, it said like the Raiders are not interested. And then like 30 minutes ago, it's like the Raiders have not ruled out Lamar Jackson being a possibility. So I don't know what you guys want to take with that, but Lamar Jackson is on the open market, kind of. The Ravens can match whatever deal that a team does propose that he does accept. And if they don't match it, 2 first-round picks, as Micah educated us on a couple of weeks back. So there's that. And then Aaron Rodgers is out of his darkness. And it hasn't been really specified, but I believe the Packers do not want him back, and the Jets are open to it. So like the Jets brass has flown out to Green Bay as of today to go meet with Aaron Rodgers. He's interested in that. The Raiders are still in play, but not in play, kind of like they keep mentioning the Raiders, but then all indications are it's like Jets or he retires. So there's just this QB carousel that Mike had mentioned at the top of this, but I don't know what's going to happen. Who's to say? Any thoughts on the Daniel Jones thing is like whatever, but any thoughts on Lamar or Aaron Rodgers as far as what you've seen today? Well, let's get into some combine news. So obviously the draft is coming up. We are about a month and a half away from draft that a lot of teams, basically 31 teams, unless you won the Super Bowl, are looking forward to how can you improve your team. The combine is a big part of that, where you get a lot of these mock drafts that happen right after the Super Bowl, a lot of player rankings, but the combine does allow you to be able to analyze each player and be able to break down and see kind of like where each individual is going to slot into. So Mike, I know you had a few notes on that. Give us a few players that you had on your mind, and maybe a few things of note that you want to bring up.
Yeah, so there's just a couple players that I wanted to talk about that I think really kind of helped improve their stock. Not necessarily to like just astronomically just like make it jump or like put them on the radar now, but like good players that really just kind of solidified where they're at. The first one being Nolan Smith, edge rusher out of Georgia. Definitely considered one of the better guys out there on the edge rank, but I feel like probably slotted himself in as a you know solidified number two guy right behind Will Anderson. He within the edge group, and mind you, not every single person tested on everything. So it's like, all right, where would he have ranked if every single person did it? If Will Anderson was up there doing those things, which he never did. Will Anderson didn't do any of the testing stuff. He did the on the field drills. I think within the DNs when the coaches are there and they're directing them, that kind of stuff. But Nolan Smith had the top 40-yard dash, 4.39. He was top on the 10-yard split. He was top on the vertical, and then he was third when it came to the broad jump. So he just blew it out of the water. I think those were the four that he did. He didn't do the 3-cone, I believe, the shuttle or the bench. So the four that he did, he ranked first in 3 of them, top 3 in all of them, obviously, with the broad jump being number 3rd. But I think there was a lot of talk of like, all right, where is some of these like D-line guys going, these edge rushers, hybrid linebackers kind of guys going? And I think he really slotted himself in there as, right behind Will Anderson. I don't think he's going to overtake Will Anderson at that number 1 spot. But nonetheless, I think he's definitely, I guess, improved his draft stock a little bit, but more solidified himself, at the top of that list with some of the better guys. And then the next guy is
sorry, if you don't mind, I'll just jump in just on that, because it was a very polarizing workout. And he was someone that is, like you said, right? The guys that you're explaining are basically, they're top 50 guys, right? But like really kind of just like put themselves in a different league than some others. So he is categorized as like a D end, right? 6'3", like 235, 240, right? And that's like a D end. And so you're kind of wondering like where is this guy? Is he going to be an off the ball linebacker? Whatever. But the tape shows everything as far as like how he can stop the run, how he can like get to the passer. I think there's some like pass rushing skills and everything like that he's been able to work on. But like just the athlete that he is, like, and especially like you mentioned, like was displayed on there, it just completely separated him from those like tweener guys, where he went from like could be back end of the first round, early second round, where it's like he's going to go in the top 20 because there's no NFL team that's going to pass on him, which is why it's a huge benefit to actually work out at the combine if you can, right? Like not if you can, but like if you're able to show off something like that. So I think it's a very good call out by you. And then he was someone that was probably like 4th or 5th D end. Like what do you play him? Like it, depending on 3-4, 4-3, really cemented himself as like someone that's going to be really at the top of the draft board as far as like top 15, top 20 kind of guy. So anyway, just my 2 cents on it.
That was just a couple guys that I wanted to touch on that I feel like really kind of boosted their stock, or at least, kind of like solidified, like, okay, maybe he is one of the top guys in this, at his respected positions.
Yeah. And I honestly, like, I think that's great that you mentioned the 2 positions, because like you have one positioning group as far as like the D line and the D end's concerned, like where like there's going to be a lot of guys that are within this like hypothetical range, right? And then how do you like grade them based on their tape? And I think that's a lot of where the combine does benefits. You're able to see like does the tape match up to this actual type of player, because then you can remove scheme and what they're responsible for and everything like that. But then you also have a group as far as the running backs are concerned, where it's on a very valued position, right? A very valued position in the draft. And so in that sense, like you could be a top 10 running back, right? Like a Brown, what was his name? Chase Brown. Chase Brown, where it's like, he's in that group of mix, but like how do you separate yourself to be like either number 4 or number 9, right? Which could be either the fourth round or undrafted, and so it's like a group where you can show your skills and show everything. And I think that's really the true value of the combine, to where they can be like, that's the difference between being draftable and undraftable. And then for the D lineman, like you mentioned with, what's his name from, gosh, I keep forgetting Georgia, that guy.
As always, we appreciate the love. Please share, subscribe, rate, review, and give us those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Go check out the Raider Take podcast on YouTube. Really trying to get that going a lot more. A lot of good content coming out on there. Also, check us out on Twitter. We got a page on Facebook too. Like, just check us out on all the social media. All of our videos get dispersed out through all those. So follow us. Check everything out. We really appreciate it. Till next time. Till next week. We will be back at you.